Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you to episode 213. Yes, 213, folks. Looking forward to a number of different topics to talk about tonight. If you've seen the invitation, you'll know what the main topic's going to be, but I've got a lot to talk about. So I just want to say, first of all, thanks for being there, whether you're listening live, whether you're listening to one of the recordings, whether you're listening via Red State Talk Radio or some of the other outlets. Thank you for being there, because without you, I would just be talking into a black hole. Anyway, let's get to some of the news that I want to talk about. And let's start off. First of all, just want to say that this show is still coming to you from Georgia, from my still unfinished studio stroke office. So if it sounds a little echoey, haven't had time to get it sorted out yet, I'm afraid. But whoops, lost my notes there. But I do want to say hi to some new friends that I made last Thursday in Gainesville. I attended a meeting of the Lanier Tea Party, and I want to say I was very much excited by being there. I have to say it was great to meet with them, and to see such a bunch of really enthusiastic patriots, and they really fired me up by meeting so many. The main topic of the evening there was a presentation about Article 5 Convention. And it was given by the state coordinator for the Convention of States group. That's a national group that is working to have a Convention of States organized. Jackie Clark was there with her husband John Clark. They drove quite a distance, and do want to say thank you to them for driving all that way to come tell us about it. Now, of course, my regular listeners will know I've talked about the Article 5 Convention a number of times. I've had some of the people from Florida, Typhoon Lou, amongst others, that the IamAmerican.org organization that is also working both in Florida and on a national level to get an Article 5 convention. Lou is focusing on a balanced budget amendment. The Convention of States group is actually broadening that and may bring other topics, but as they said in the presentation, they're quite happy to piggyback with the balanced budget amendment convention, because once we can show that it works, then it's going to be a lot easier to call other ones in the future if Congress is not doing as we the people really want. So Jackie and her husband were talking about the fact that Georgia is one of the many states that has actually passed the resolution. Fortunately, we don't have enough states as again, my regular listeners will know I've said there's 34 states are required to call the convention. And Jackie put this rather cleverly. She said the numbers to remember are very easy: 34, 26, 38. And for all red-blooded males, probably something that you would remember. But basically, 34 states have to call the convention. 26, so a simple majority, have to vote for for whatever amendments are discussed in the convention, and then 38 states have to ratify afterwards. So there was a lot of discussion about that, the pros and cons, many of the reasons for not having the convention, and this is fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is sown by both the left and the right, and especially both sides if they're in the political establishment, because this is going to rein in their power. And of course, heaven forbid that we take their power away. But these reasons not to have the convention have been rebutted in prior shows. But just as a reminder, just as a summary, first of all, this will not be a runaway constitutional convention. The main reason for that is that an Article 5 convention can only discuss designated topics. Those topics need to be specified in the bills that get passed by the state legislators to call the convention. And when 34 have done that and said, we want an Article 5 convention to discuss this topic or these topics, then and only then can the Article 5 convention take place. Congress is required to then organize that and sort of decide where it will be held, when it will be held, and believe me, they will be fighting that tooth and nail all along the way. To me, that's one of the cons, one of the disadvantages is that we have to go through Congress, but they are required to do it. The Constitution is very clear. It's not a we do this if we want. No, they have to do it. Then again, Congress is very good at not following the Constitution, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So one thing, so no runaway convention because it's not a constitutional convention, it's an Article 5. And even if, and this is the other thing, that even if somehow somebody took control of the convention, turned it into a constitutional convention, or added in new topics, even if they were introduced and even if they were approved by the convention, it still requires 38 states to ratify before it can be added to the Constitution. So do you really think if someone comes along with something really extreme and outlandish, and whether it's to the left or to the right, but if the convention were to get hijacked, do you think 38 states would ratify? Highly unlikely. And so there was a lot of discussion backwards and forwards in the meeting about convention delegates, about the voting. And Jackie reminded us it is actually one state, one vote. Doesn't matter how many delegates you send, and it doesn't matter how big your state is and what kind of population you have. It is one state, one vote. The rules, they are sort of predetermined, but Congress has some choices in what they do. If Congress could block it, no. How the ratification would be determined, well, Congress actually decides how the amendments will get ratified, but again, all they get is a choice of two different ways, either a state-level convention for ratification, or the state legislators can ratify. It's up to Congress to decide that. So lots of good discussion. Of course, there are a number of other topics being discussed at the Lanier Tea Party. And all in all, it was a great evening, and I'm very pleased to see how the Tea Party is very much alive in this part of the country. So thanks again to the group. Now, we're here just a little bit south of the mountains, but I have some good news as well for people who don't like using computers. If you live in North Carolina, specifically if you live near to Brevard, North Carolina, and that would put you in, I think, in the Smoky Mountains, or in the Blue Ridge Mountains, they're called up there. WMQL FM 105.5 will soon be starting broadcast of the Red State Talk Radio feed over the air, as well as via their internet feed. So again, the internet feed is if you are using a computer, but if you're in the Brevard area and don't want to use a computer, you can turn on WMQL, and you should be able to hear Red State Talk Radio, and hopefully at some time also Patrick Come Lately on the Red State Talk Radio feed when my show gets rebroadcast by that station. So that's good news, and congratulations to Primo, the owner of Red State Talk Radio, for getting that arranged. And let's go on now and start with our first topic. First topic is a little thing called liberal logic, and was predicated upon something that Dear Leader told us just in the last week. But basically, if you smoke, you should be charged more for healthcare. This is not what Dear Leader said. I'll be getting to that later. But this is something that has come out of the Liberals over the last number of years, right? If you smoke, you should be charged more for healthcare because your healthcare costs are likely to be higher. You may get cancer, emphysema, etc. If you are obese, you should be charged more for healthcare because your healthcare costs are likely to be higher. Diabetes, joint issues, all sorts of heart problems. However, and this is now coming to what the leader said, if you are a woman whose healthcare costs are likely to be higher, pregnancy, contraception, etc., it is unfair to charge you more for healthcare costs. As I said before, typical liberal logic, because liberals have no logic. Yes, and the reason I brought this up is because Dear Leader told us this week. He did his little victory lap around the Rose Garden or wherever he held his press conference. I normally turn him off when he's on the TV or on the radio, so I don't know where it actually took place. But I did hear some of the sound bites, and one of the things that I heard was that he said Obamacare is working. And one of its major benefits is that it prevents women from being charged more for their health care because they are a woman. But I just explained that there are reasons why that might be. Oh, well, liberal logic, folks. Okay, next topic. Bit more hypocrisy or liberal logic. And, well, what I was going to say, lost my notes again, but what I was going to say is that Nancy Pelosi said to Democrats, don't be afraid, Obamacare is good, let's go on Obamacare. So that's, what is it? Now, they said they have 7 million or even 8 million have actually enrolled, but we don't know how many have paid, and we don't know how many of them are alive. Apparently, we have hundreds of thousands of dead people enrolled. But 6 million have lost their policies. Policies are going up in terms of the money. So people lost them when they go to the exchanges. They're finding an average of 41% increase. We're expecting more increases next year. And Nancy Pelosi is stupid enough to say, "Oh, well, let's run on Obamacare." Please do, Nancy, because the more you do that, hopefully the more likely we are to get rid of you and your cronies, hopefully you. So remember that, folks. When you vote in November, remember that Princess Pelosi is getting, well, she's pretty old now, 70, so I think she's beginning to suffer from senior-itis, and just like Dingy Harry saying the stupidest things. Last week I said I was going to try to avoid constantly harping on about some of the stupid things that Liberals do, but they keep throwing it at me. I said that last week, and I'm going to say it again. So here was another one that I thought was very, very good. And basically the Obama administration, especially Harry Reid, has been saying that Cliven Bundy owes upwards of $1 million in past due grazing fees. Actually not in grazing fees, but in the fines and extra fees and interest and everything that goes on top. What they did, they broke out the militarized BLM, 200 sharpshooters with automatic weapons. Remember, not semi-automatic, but actually with automatic weapons. Attacked him, began seizing his cattle, were killing his cattle, euthanizing them, destroying drinking areas, things like that. Just absolutely running wild. But what about the reverend? Well, no, you can't use the reverend. He's not a reverend. It's just that's just phony. The rat, Al Sharpton, as he is a rat. He's a rat fink. He acted as an informer, so let's call him that. The rat Al Sharpton owes the IRS $2.5 million in back taxes, and yet he gets to rub shoulders with Obama and Eric Holder. Whoever says that there are two Americas is correct, because that is very much so. And so Dingy Harry, as I said, doubled down on his call that those exercising their First Amendment rights are domestic terrorists. Yes, that's what he called those people who were there supporting Cliven Bundy. Now, whether Cliven is right or not, everyone has a First Amendment right to stand up and say that they support him, and to go out to his ranch and be there without the threat of physical harm by these thugs in the BLM. And for Dingy Harry to double down and start calling them, and by extension, of course, what they really want to do is they want to extend that to all Tea Party people. Basically, anybody who stands up against the government is a domestic terrorist. Well, folks, that really ticked me off. That ticked me off a whole pile. I have calmed down a bit now, but when I first heard that, I thought, Dingy Harry, how can you even dare to do that? The definition of a terrorist is one who exerts violence against others to achieve their own goals. Well, under that definition, it's the administration that is the terrorist. How about Fast and Furious? They exerted violence there, or had people exert violence on their behalf because they really wanted to use it for gun control. Look at Bundy, exerting violence there. Look at the IRS against the Tea Party, political violence, albeit, or governmental violence, not necessarily with guns, but still violence against the Tea Party. So that makes the administration a terrorist. And as mentioned before, Dingy Harry was harping on about, well, we've got to follow the rule of law. Well, if that's so important, why isn't that race-baiting Al Sharpton in jail? He should be in jail, right, if he owes $2.5 million. And definitely not rubbing shoulders with Holder and King Barry. If we are a country of laws, why aren't the immigration laws enforced? Why isn't Holder arrested for Fast and Furious? Why is Lois Lerner not in jail for contempt of Congress? Those are also all laws that need to be followed. Dingy Harry, you can't pick and choose. The rule of law is the rule of law. Why is Obama not impeached for picking and choosing which parts of the immigration law he wants to apply? Why is Obama not impeached for picking and choosing which parts of Obamacare he wants to apply? Folks, the rule of the law should be the rule of the law. You can't just pick and choose what you want. But in this administration, in this country today, it's not what you do, it's who you know that determines your punishment. And as far as Dingy Harry goes, his throttle hold on the Senate, it may not be totally unconstitutional. It's definitely morally wrong and against the intent of the Founding Fathers. The fact that one man can pick and choose which laws come to the floor for votes is absolutely despicable. He's exerting his power to force what he and his cronies want to do. He's forcing their will on the American people, of whom at least half, and probably a lot more, but they're often afraid to say so, he's making at least half do what they don't want, just because he wants it. And to me, that makes him a political terrorist. Okay, folks, before the commercial break, just a quick shout out if you're listening live. If you look at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there's a little green speech bubble. If you click on that, that will open the chat room, and it lets me know that you're here. I'd like to say hi to Paul, who is back again, one of my regular listeners. Nice to see you, Paul. Thanks for coming. Let me know any other listeners that are out there. The statistics at Spreaker seem to indicate there are other listeners during the duration of the show, but let me know that you're there, because it's nice to know who else is there and that I'm not just talking into a black hole. Okay, time for a commercial. I'll be back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice. Glad to be with you on this 213th episode of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. Thanks for joining me. And let's see, new topic. So let's go straight into that. And the new topic I'd like to title, Uh-oh, Here We Go Again. And that's because apparently in Texas, the BLM is trying to make another land grab. They're looking at 90,000 acres along a 116-mile stretch of the Texas-Oklahoma boundary, and they're reviewing this for a possible federal takeover and ownership of privately held lands which have been deeded property for generations of Texas landowners. Now, I don't want to go into all the details, but basically it relates back to the Louisiana Purchase of 1803, and the BLM is claiming that Texas never had the authority to deed the land to private parties, and therefore it should fall under federal control. Well, if it's in the state of Texas, what has the federal government got to do with it? If it couldn't be deeded to private parties, I would think that it belongs to the state and not to the federal government. But, we know what Washington and this administration, and prior ones as well, they're all for grabbing power. In 1922, the Supreme Court attempted to settle the boundary dispute because it's a dispute between Oklahoma and Texas, and basically it has to do with the fact that the boundary is along the river and the river moves. And in 1922, they said the boundary would be defined by wooden stakes set up on the river bank, but as you can imagine, with the river that meanders and changes its shape, that those wooden stakes don't last very long. So in 2000, they agreed to a Red River Boundary Compact, which defined the border more clearly, but such an agreement has to be ratified by the Congress, and they're still trying to get that ratification. So basically, in the meanwhile, BLM is just trying to take over, and they did this a while back, and they actually took 140 acres from a rancher called Tommy Henderson. Only 140 acres, but it kind of set a precedent, and they didn't need to pay him a single cent. They took his land, and they didn't need to pay a single cent. Now, they're looking at a much larger, and we were talking about 90,000 acres, whether or not they really want to go for all of that, but still, probably close to that. Anything that they can do to gain more power and take stuff away from people. It's absolutely disgusting. Okay, folks, let's talk about this. Yes, we really need to get the police. Someone needs to get arrested. Somebody needs to get impeached. And that person needs to be the person in the White House. And why is that? Well, let me just tell you right now. And the reason I think he needs to be impeached and he needs to be arrested and removed from the White House is because in the budget proposal that Dear Leader presented to Congress last month, he has called for what would be the highest level of sustained taxation ever imposed on the American people. And this is according to the CBO. That's the CBO, this so-called neutral organization in the administration that the regressives love to quote. And as soon as they love to quote it, it already tells me that something smells. But even if so, whether they're neutral or whether they lean to the left, they have done this analysis and decided that under Obama's proposal, taxes would rise from 17.6% of GDP in 2014 to 19.2% in 2024. And then in the 10 years from 2015 to 2024, the average would be 18.7%, but in 2024, it would actually go up to almost 20%, 19.2% of GDP. That is the highest level it has ever been, and America has never been subjected to a 10-year stretch of taxation at that level. So in the 12 fiscal years preceding Pearl Harbor, federal taxation averaged about 5.3% of GDP. In the 5 years of World War II, so that's 42 through 46, it averaged 16.1%. In the years 1947 to 2013, taxation has averaged 17.1% of GDP. In the period from 92 to 2001, 10 years, federal taxes averaged 18.3% of GDP. But in addition to that, in the last 4 years of that period, the federal budget was in balance, and we're anything but in balance now. So you see, dear leader is indeed a tax and spend liberal, and he's going to get the taxes so high. And not only that, CBO has indicated that over the next 10 years, the federal government would add 7.1 trillion to the national debt. So 7.1 trillion on the national debt plus 1.4 in increased taxes. That means $8 trillion extra being spent by this tax and spend liberal. Folks, it has to stop. We are taxed enough already. And with that, I will take a break and say hi to a couple of friends after this break. So bear with me, folks. We will be right back.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We're now into the second half of the show. Just like to give a shout out to Rex Reapy, who has also joined us in the chat room along with Paul. Rex, the author of those great books of the FEMA Camp series. If you love a rollicking adventure, just a reminder, do go to Amazon and look up the books. And I want to congratulate Edward or Rex and his wife Marsha on their new accommodation. They have a brand new RV. And Rex, I'm still waiting for pictures of your baby. I do want to see the luxury that you've now moved into. But congratulations on that, and thanks for joining us. Okay, just a reminder, if you agree with me or disagree with me or have questions, you can get hold of me if you're not in the chat room, because you're not listening live, and I have to admit most of my listeners do actually listen to recordings or the rebroadcasts, which are also obviously recordings. So you're not listening live, you can't participate in the chat room, but if you would like to react to anything that goes on in the show, please do contact me, and here's how you can contact me. If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patriotcomelately.us or go to the show's website, www.patriotcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patriot Come Lately Show. And I do love hearing from my listeners, so do email me, do contact me via the show page. Do love hearing from you, and I will try to respond to you directly, and also in many cases, if appropriate, I will bring your question into the show and answer it or discuss it in a future show. Okay, folks, some good news. And the good news is that the United States CO2 emissions are at the lowest level in 20 years. Now, why that is may surprise you, and who's saying that it is will knock your socks off. This is something that was put out today, which is actually Earth Day. So this is the day we've got to be nice to the earth, and of course the fact that CO2 emissions were lower is great news. And this was put out, and it was, and the reason for it was given by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, anybody who knows the IPCC knows that this is very definitely not a right-wing group. This is a very left-wing group that's always talking about climate change, but they were very happy to see that CO2 emissions had gone down, and the reason for that is because of, could you believe this, because of fracking. And I just about fell off my chair when I read that. The IPCC credits shale development and fracking technologies with providing more natural gas, because that's one of the major things that comes out of the fracking, hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling technologies, and that provides a lot more natural gas, and that is a major reason for the reduction of CO2 emissions. The International Energy Agency, United Nations, another one of those left-wing kooky groups. The decline in energy-related CO2 emissions in the US in recent years has been one of the bright spots in the global picture. Yeah, because ours go down, whereas India and China are going up by leaps and bounds. So why should we twist ourselves in knots when the Chinese and the Indians aren't even bothering to do anything? Let's see. Senator Tim Kaine, D, from Virginia. Tim Kaine, of course, a very left-wing thing. We've been improving our emissions in this country without agreeing to the Kyoto Accords, without congressional action, because of innovation from the natural gas areas. The guy sounds almost like a Republican. What's going on? Did the sun rise in the west today? And that moves us down the carbon density scale, said Tim Kaine. Not as fast as some would like, but it's moving us down the carbon density scale. Okay. How about another Democrat? We've been growing much more rapidly than Europe, and yet our greenhouse gases are falling. And the reason is because of shale gas, which is natural gas recovered via what's called fracking. And this was Moonbeam Brown, yes, the extreme left-wing California governor of California. And he's saying, which is natural gas recovered by what's called fracking, and that's good. But they keep saying fracking's bad. How about the EPA? The EPA administrator, Gina McCarthy, has called natural gas a game changer and said responsible development of natural gas is an important part of our work to curb climate change and support a robust clean energy market at home. Wow, what's going on with the world? Add to that the news reported by AP that unions are backing fracking because it's good for employment. Well, we all know that. North Dakota is booming. What have they got? Sort of a 1% unemployment rate or something, very, very low. And salaries are through the roof. Of course, it means rents are not cheap either, but salaries are through the roof. So it's good for working people. And the union, so Dennis Martire, the Mid-Atlantic Regional Manager for the Labourers International Union, said the shale has become a lifesaver and a lifeline for a lot of working families. Well, Earth Day today, which is a left-wing thing, but lots of good news for Americans, the Americas, the United States, and all these left-wing people turning into Republicans and saying that innovation and the free market is good and fracking is okay. Boy, I can hardly believe that. Very unbelievable. Okay, let's see. We've got a couple of minutes before the next topic. So what I want to go to... Let me just do my little interlude. Another has hell frozen over moment. The Senate, and this was a few weeks ago, the Senate unanimously approved a bill introduced by Ted Cruz. Democrats, GOP, all united behind Ted Cruz' bill. All of them, unanimously. Can you believe that? Now, what was the bill that got this 100% approval? It was actually the bill that censured and wanted to prevent Hamid Abu Talibi coming as ambassador to the United Nations. Something Cruz called a deliberate and unambiguous insult to the United States. And that's because this guy Hamid was one of the Muslim students who seized the US embassy in Tehran and then tortured 52 American hostages for over a year during the Carter administration. This is not the moment for diplomatic niceties, Cruz said, calling on the Senate to send Tehran an equally clear message. And the Senate did just that. The House also supported it, and dear leader has also signed it into law. There is one issue, though. The UN is going to take America to task. Well, they do that all the time, so why we're really worried about it. But as we know, dear leader is a lot more sensitive to the United Nations than he should be. They are now saying you cannot refuse anybody a diplomatic visa to come into the United Nations, because that was part of the original charter and why the United Nations was set up in New York. Well, there's a good excuse then. If we're not letting them in, move the United Nations somewhere else. Move it to Abu Dhabi or Tehran or whatever, but move it out of New York. I'm sure we could make much better use of that land than the United Nations. So this bill that Ted Cruz put forward, but even people like John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Chucky Schumer supported this bill. So it shows strange bedfellows in politics they can forget. Now, Ted Cruz went to Harvard Law School, and one of his professors was Alan Dershowitz. And he actually told the Philadelphia Inquirer last year that although he doesn't agree with the young senator's politics, he did say never underestimate Ted Cruz. He is off the chart brilliant. And I think he would make a great president or a vice president. I think he'd be very, very good in that role. So keep your fingers crossed. Okay, folks, time for the last commercial break here. And after that, we'll be into the last segment of the show. So stick with me.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And welcome back. We're into the last segment of the show, and just want to once again thank my listeners for being out there. Really appreciate it. And just a reminder, if you're in the Brevard, North Carolina area, WMQL 105.5 will soon be starting broadcast of the Red State Talk Radio feed, and that means that depending on which part of the schedule they take, that Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio may be available on the airwaves in your part of the Blue Ridge Mountains there. Okay, we were talking about Ted Cruz, and I'd like to continue with another piece of news about him, because I think this is all good news. And the other piece of news around Ted Cruz is that he has actually got involved in a GOP primary, and he has made his first endorsement, throwing his support to the Oklahoma Senate candidate T.W. Shannon, saying that T.W. is a strong constitutional conservative who will fight for individual liberty and help turn our country around. So, very strange that Ted Cruz would do that, because as his role, he does have a role as vice chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which is supposed to be officially neutral in open primaries. But as we know, the GOP establishment always supports the establishment candidate, so I think Ted Cruz wanted to offset that, because TW is not the establishment candidate. Shannon is running in the special election to complete the term of Senator Tom Coburn, R., who is stepping down at the end of the year. Now, his main opponent is James Lankford, and he's the establishment pick due to his ties to the party leadership in the House. Early polling showed Lankford with a significant but shrinking lead, so we'll wait to see whether Shannon can catch him up. He was actually the first black speaker of the Oklahoma House of Representatives. He resigned the post in February after entering the primary. His heritage, which also includes Chickasaw and ancestry, has helped him make a rising star in the GOP, and 3 weeks ago he picked up the endorsement of the Tea Party-aligned Senate Conservatives Fund. He also has Sarah Palin, Mike Lee, who will be supporting him, and they're appearing at a rally for Shannon day after tomorrow, so that'll be Thursday in Tulsa. So if you're in the Oklahoma area, if you're close to Tulsa, go there and support TW, because he's obviously the Tea Party candidate. We should support those as much as possible. Okay, folks. Let's see, one last thing. We're getting to the end of the show. One quick thing. More Obama curse numbers. And this is just a very quick one. So it's been decided by the CBO that Obama curse is probably going to cost us about $2 trillion over 10 years. Right now, it seems to provide insurance to just about, well, when this actual thing was written, 1.4 million, but now, if they really have 8 million people in there, so maybe we'll say, let's be generous, say 2 million people who were previously uninsured. Remember, because there are a lot of people who lost their insurance. So we've now got a net gain of 2 million uninsured who now have insurance. If you take the 2 trillion and divide it by 2 million, that means $1 million per previously uninsured person, family, that, or at least sign up. That's a lot of money, folks. We could have given them free insurance for that, instead of doing this whole malarkey with Obama curse and everything. Folks, it just shows, Obama curse is exactly that. It is a curse, and we really have to get rid of it. And the only way we can do that is by working hard and taking back the Senate. Ideally, if we could get it with more than 66 people, boy, we could then override the presidential veto. Be interesting to see if the GOP establishment had the cojones then to go in and actually repeal Obama curse and fill its void with something that makes more sense and that is much more person friendly than what they have out there today. Okay, folks, we're getting close to the end here. It's been, just want to remind you, I'm hoping to have an interview shortly with Tracy McBride talking about Common Core. Tell you about that maybe next week or perhaps the week after, but I'll tell you more about that. Talk to you next week. There's the music. Time to go. Ta-ta for now. And as I said, see you next week. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.